Swami, thank you for joining us again. You and I had the privilege of speaking last year, and quite a lot has happened in this last year.
I know.
So I'm sure it's been very busy for you, and let's get straight into it. The last 3 years have been a whirlwind, I think, for a lot of us who have been going through this. Generative AI, all of us in this room will have used it to this point. We've now got agentic. Could you just take a brief moment to level set on those two terms for the audience and some examples from customers?
I mean, so one of the things, as you rightfully point out, is all of us actually started building AI assistants or chatbots. They surface as like simple customer service agents or IT agents or various other things. And normal, then immediate question is it agentic AI? We have been doing it for the past 2-3 years. The biggest difference, and I touched on it also in the keynote, and I will talk about how it surfaces to our users, but also what under the hood has changed. Now, the first thing is, as I explained in the morning, let's say you're dealing with a website issue and you ask a chatbot saying like, hey, it seems like traffic has dropped. What is going on? Now, a chatbot is going to pull generic knowledge from what is in the LLM and say, maybe you should go check the logs and debug and whatnot. But then an agent is something what will mimic what a user does, which is like when we actually are investigating a website issue and something has gone down, and we are not just going to give a generic advice that you will get from just a consultant. Instead, you're going to get tailored set of actions. You're going to be like, let me pull out the latest logs from my observability things like CloudWatch. Let me actually see what are the errors happening. And then let me go inspect, did I deploy something? It is going to do all these investigation, and then it is going to also come up with the root cause and then figure out what fix needs to be done. That is a big difference from a customer experience level. But when you double click on what is it that at the underlying technology level, what changed from a generative AI to agentic AI, that is more important in my opinion, because earlier, and this is true even in the beginning of probably middle of last year, is most of these models were not capable of doing like intricate multi-step reasoning. You give it a question and it probably in a single shot, it was generating pretty useful answers, but you cannot give it a high level objective and have it break down like we as humans can do. But as these models started getting the chain of thought reasoning and they were trained to do so, then suddenly you can give them high level objective and break it down into a series of steps. But then always having an amazing model that breaks it down into a series of steps, but that doesn't do anything is useless in my opinion. So this is where agents made it happen in the second step. These models got really good at tool calling. That means the combination of an extreme IQ and then our real ability to do actions put together unlock this agentic world. And that is why this DevOps agent example I gave really actually now can not only debug, but it can perform actions. And that's why everybody is now talking about AI agents.
Yeah, that DevOps example yesterday is fascinating on the frontier models, and particularly in a conversation I've had with a lot of customers is it's actually helping me get to that aha moment when a human can go, yes.
That's right.
And that's a massive time saver on fixes we're looking for. Moving on, now all of the executives in this room that you and I both speak to, I'm sure, have a lot of ideas. They're working with a lot of stakeholders. They're looking at like, okay, where do I start? There's so many different areas of my business I could focus on where I can do this agentic AI. But a bit like the early days of cloud, getting your first solid victory over the line is extremely powerful for momentum. So as executives, how should they be thinking about this for choosing that first thing where they really focus on to get that over the line? Is there some criteria you're seeing that are good? You know, in the early days of cloud, we used to say, pick something important.
Yeah. I would say in this space, since the space is first moving so fast, one of the first things I tell people is that you have to really reorient ourselves to being like AI native in thinking. It sounds like something a marketing tagline, but I genuinely mean it in a way that in many ways, you see even now how product managers think about systems, or how developers are building systems, or how we as execs think about like art of possible, as the rules of the game is fundamentally changing. So being able to think in an AI first world is paramount. That means the way we work, it needs to change. For instance, I'll just give a very simple example. We have a tool that we launched externally called Amazon Quick Suite. It is, think of it as it's an agentic teammate that not only connects to all your data warehouse and databases, but also your MS365, Google Docs, SaaS apps, and everything. And it actually has insights agents, deep research, automation, and everything. And within Amazon, we have like 150,000 users using it. And that was my gating criteria before I launched it externally. But what was interesting about this was that all the executives suddenly they felt like they have this amazing power, because when we were about to launch a product, one of the first things I found myself doing was I will upload the PR FAQ, and in there I'll ask saying like, hey, this is the product I'm about to launch and looks like these are the competitors. Can you go compare and build a feature comparison feature matrix, and then also tell how are they pricing and what are we thinking about pricing, and then suggest some ideas. And literally within 20 minutes, I used to get the 6 pager. And then and I do it the morning before I get to work. And then I will actually meet with the team for their pricing doc. This is like, it's all, and they will, of course, produce a 6 pager for me. And then I will read it too. Then we'll be like, okay, it is kind of like really crazy that they will feel like, shit, how did you know all these features existed in those competitors that I didn't capture here? It's because now the game is changing. Like suddenly the level of insights you get and the level of preparation you can do, what used to take like 2 weeks of prep, now I got it done in like 20 minutes, and I'm more equipped to make these decisions. This is purely at exec level. Now, I mean, yesterday you all saw what Matt talked about in within my own teams. Like we use Kiro to build Kiro. I know it sounds like the movie Inception, but it is literally what even Guillermo talked about in Vercel, right? Like, and we were able to build something like the Kiro CLI in a matter of literally 5 weeks. Think about it. The art of possible is just fundamentally changing. That's number one. A second one, and this was my biggest pet peeve when I started on this new role, was all of us want to build agents. People build amazing demos, and my team used to show me these demos. And I used to, when I started the group, I had like, come and show me whatever you all are thinking of ideas. And then I used to a lot of ideas that they're producing. Okay, let's go. And then yeah, like when can we launch? And then suddenly I'll get the reality check. Oh, it is going to take us a lot of time, because I had to deal with all this thing around secure scaling, to identity, to all this stuff. And when I heard it for the third time, I said, you know what? I'm going to just build a platform so that none of you should deal with this. That led to Agent Core. So why am I bringing this story up? Find amazing business problems, think AI native, and then figure out what are the core things you want to solve and double down on them. Don't leave them in the proof of concept line. Ideate, I mean, generate lots of ideas, but once you know which one you really want to double down on, really you need to go double down, and then make sure that you have all the incentives aligned on the top line and bottom line. But don't organize the teams in traditional ways. And this is one of the biggest things. Maybe we can double click later, but gone are the days you need like 30, 40 people to get anything done. I genuinely think it is slowing things down, because all these humans talking to each other and coordinating what to build. Instead, if you give them only 6 people, they will build it faster, especially with these frontier agents. So I think organizing also how to deliver at a speed and an effective pace is also super important.
It's interesting you say that. One of the customers I've worked with, Danske Bank, they did a hackathon and they basically committed to the winning team that would get into production. And that was a complete mindset change across the business. I was like, wow, that's amazing. So sort of building on those other two things you got, it's like, it's actually quite a leap for a leadership team to do that, but a catalyst for focusing the mind. So I thought that was great. Now, all of the executives in this room have a lot of choice.
Yeah.
And as an executive, the choice that you almost agonize out when I was a customer is, am I going to build, am I going to buy, or am I going to use when I'm solving a business outcome? Any advice you have for this audience in that perpetual dilemma?
Yeah, the crux of it is, the answer is always going to be all of the above, but the art is going to be on which ones do you want to pick to build, which ones do you want to pick to buy, which ones do you want to be somewhere in between. So take an example of something like what we have done with like Cox Automotive. You heard them in the morning. They were able to achieve significant productivity gain by deploying agents across their entire operation. But building agents on there is their core production. Their value of the business, right from like sales interaction also to all the maintenance workflows. But what is the undifferentiated part? It is related to all the things around building managed runtime, identity, connectivity, and observability, all these things. So for that, they said, you know what, I'm not going to build the underlying agentic platform. Let me just use agent core on it. Now, so that is like the in-between model. Now, but whereas in other areas like business user productivity, as an example, that is an area now, there is like very, very little use, even in a company like Amazon. Think of Amazon as like, 20 different companies, because we do all the way from like launching satellites to running cloud computing to Alexa devices. Each of them have diverse needs. But at the end of the day, business user workflow, business productivity is related to how do I get insights on this data? How do I do research? How do I automate workflows? And so forth. Tools like QuickSuite are now just basically making it so easy for everyone without even any training. In fact, for this entire conference, and if you all probably have account managers with you, have them show what they do quick with their entire training is now automated with QuickSuite, where the automated flows that they use are built by them without writing a single line of code. So that is the pace at which the teams are moving. That's a great example of areas where, unless your core value for your business is in building those kind of back-end business user productivity tools, that is something you can buy. And QuickSuite, already you all should have access to it. But if not, just ping me as well. But that is like such an easy no-brainer. The third one I would say is the biggest one where you really had to think hard about building is the core area around what is your sustainable long-term business value. And it might come down to all around your business, your data, and your workflows. This means that is your long-term durable asset. And there you do want to own everything. You want to be able to customize your agent, customize your model, and so forth. So that is why today, and also yesterday, Matt, we spent a lot of time talking about all the tools we give to customizing your models and agents so that you actually own the model and you own the agent, and you're not using a generic model where all the assets go to the model. And that is something super important because at the end of the day, that becomes in long term your durable asset.
Great, thank you. Now, if you actually think back the last 200 years from the Industrial Revolution, the way that we as leaders have strived for deterministic outcomes in our teams, the way we've designed our teams, we've wanted things to be deterministic. None of us in this room like that 3 a.m. phone call when things have gone wrong or something has been breached. And this morning, one thing I want to really sort of double click on is trust.
Yeah.
In agentic systems. And you made a point about identity systems, which sort of was eloquent with me this morning, where you say you can drown in trying to get the identity right, but it's so crucial that you do. And one of the other sort of mental models I've heard some of our colleagues talk about is this: we're almost moving from this factory floor of determinism almost to like a trading floor scenario where you've got limits on the agent's behavior, almost like a floor limit, a bit like we do in market matching engines. What's your perspective on this area? Because this trust, one of our key principles in Amazon is earn trust. This is equally sure for these systems. They've got to earn trust with us as executives to be able to trust them and know them.
Yeah.
Observability is so important. What's your thoughts on this topic?
That's great, and I'm glad you raised the leadership principle, earn trust. But the other thing you will see is in same Amazon, yes, we index a lot on our leaders to earn trust, but we also have mechanisms where we trust but also verify. So, and the same is true for agents too. Yes, I mean, I run a pretty sizable team, but and I trust my leaders a lot because these are the leaders who have built all these amazing frontier agents, agent core, many, many things that Matt and I talked about. But I also have mechanisms to check to make sure, hey, is the project going on track? Do they need help? In many ways, in a world where agents are going to be running for multiple hours and multiple days, and it is going to make series of decisions along the way on workflows, you do want mechanisms where you can audit and make sure, hey, something is actually tripping because the world is changing. Then I would like to be engaged and I would like to authorize and approve. For instance, the simplest example, and that is exactly what we talked about, was take something like you're building a customer service agent that process order processing for refunds.
Yep.
The normally it totally makes sense to do like automated refund processing if a bunch of variables check through and risk and fraud score checks through and so forth. But you want it to be automated up to a certain limit. But if it is like beyond $1,000, you're saying like, you know what, now it's worth actually getting human approval because the cost of human approval is probably going to be, let's say, $50 an hour because you're going to get a high value judgment human to take a look at the context and all the data and say, this doesn't look like a scam or whatnot. So let me go approve it. Then it is still the ROI is worth it instead of actually losing the entire $1,000 in some manner. So to me, the right amount of controls where we need agents to bring in human judgment is one of the important things. But it is not always about human approval in many cases. It is also about solving many of these problems mathematically. This was one of the biggest revelations, and this happened completely by accident. I don't know how many of you saw Byron Cook today in my keynote. He is one of the wildest mathematician. I joke saying like he speaks math better than English, and I mean it as a compliment. He is an amazing, brilliant scientist and foremost authority in automated reasoning. And the biggest thing about Byron was that when I remember talking to him like 3 years ago in a bar, even though I wasn't even drinking, but I was talking to him and I was explaining all these LLMs and how much they are prone to hallucination and so forth. And then Byron lit up. He's like, but this problem is solvable. I'm like, dude, how is it solvable in a probabilistic world where LLMs are stochastic token predictor? And then we talked about saying like, no, but you're assuming all problems cannot be actually modeled with correct verifiers. What about these problems? What about that problem? And then I said, okay, I had this problem. We were building the early version of the software prototype like CLI. And I said, because all these things hallucinate API parameters. And so I said, how would you solve it? Then he said, you know what, we can actually build a compiler-based verifier and have the verifier check the LLM output. And if it gets it wrong, you can tell the LLM, I think you got it wrong. Can you try again and make sure does it right? And then we started building this loop, which essentially created a new field called neurosymbolic AI. So, and again, that is another means of actually building automated mechanisms to build agentic trust as well. So this combination of actual automated neurosymbolic AI-based trust helps us with long-term agents. But in many cases, you also want human in the loop trust. That's why even at the Agent Core, we actually not only launched policy, but we also launched something called interventions. So you can actually put in saying like in this area, I would like a human some form of intervention and humans to weigh in, as an example. So these kind of mechanisms are going to be so important. And then the final one I would say is all of us like to trust a colleague if they are reliable. This is just human life. So reliability plays a lot in trusting an agent. And this is where continuous investment in building best-in-class agents requires really good evaluations. Of course, it's a big area of focus, as you saw what we did with Agent Core Evals and so forth. But you'll also see what we have done with Nova Act. We even innovated on how we train these agents with we call it reinforcement learning gyms, where it is basically virtual environments that these things are getting trained and getting rewarded or penalized in terms of how the RL algorithms work. As in, it gets better and better in reliability, we implicitly are going to also turn it on for more and more use cases. So these are the three buckets I would generally think them about.
Yeah. Certainly, having worked with Byron previously, as we've done mathematical proofing for different areas of our infrastructure. And I know for many of our customers, security, resiliency, so important. And having seen it applied to those areas so effectively, I'm thrilled it's now in the agentic AI space as well. So final couple of questions, and I want to bring this back to sort of your a little bit personal perspectives here, because you've served on the National AI Advisory Committee advising the president. You said AI is the most transformative technology of our generation. And you've also said something personal, which resonated with me. And that's when you've been leading your teams. You've said innovation is filled with agonizing self-doubt. And certainly when I've been building and leading teams and they look to you, you're like, I haven't got all the answers. So you do have some of that agonizing sort of self-doubt. So with that in mind, I'm really curious. When you think about where agentic AI is heading, not necessarily AWS's position, but your honest assessment of where this is going for humanity. And a sort of double question on this one. This is a deep question. It's like, what keeps you up at night? And what are you optimistic about? It's a bit like that. It's that sort of perpetual, for those of us that are in regulated industries, when the supervisor literally asks you what keeps you up at night. But I'm really interested to go a little bit deeper on where this is going.
First, what keeps me up at night, other than Las Vegas dry air, which I really hate. So I barely ever sleep in Vegas. But at home, it's mostly my dog annoyingly coming into my bed every single night. But that is probably the only thing that keeps me up at night. But that said, but I love my puppy. But the I'd say the biggest thing about agentic AI, what keeps me up in many ways, is that in many times in the history of technology, we had a lot more time to deal with change in many ways. In terms of the rate of change was not as rapid as what we are experiencing today. And in such moments of like amazing rate of change, the ability for all of us to not only just keep at it, but also out innovate, where in such moments of great change, you had to be the one shaping the change, not the one being shaped by those changes. So that means the pace of innovation really, really matters in a big way. So this requires not just about being up to speed on all the technology innovations, catching up with the latest and greatest research, investing your time personally, but also your key leaders and both ICs and org leaders to be on the ball when it comes to hands-on prototyping and engaging. And I allocate 2 to 4 hours of personal time so that I stay hands-on. It can be reading papers, it can be prototyping and whatnot. But then you get to a point where you are always at least very grounded in terms of what you need to work on. But then you fundamentally had to think differently in this new world because it's very easy to get caught up on what is hype and actually over-organize and not know what is reality as well. So this is why I always encourage everyone I meet first to say, really being hands-on is now more important than ever, more than what you can really learn anything by reading a news report or article, because Once you really get an innate feel on what works, what doesn't, you fundamentally will have a much better reaction. Second, in this world, I can't help but be optimistic. I mean it genuinely, and as a person who has been always wide-eyed about everything related to technology, right from my middle school days. I'll say because who is a builder is now changing in a big, profound way, because no longer you need to be like a JavaScript or a TypeScript or a Java expert or you don't need familiarity of programming languages, and syntax is becoming less of a requirement to get started. Yes, they are going to be important for specific areas, but and then you don't need to know the intricate things of every single API call out there or spend 2 hours researching that. Like all these agentic CLI systems are automatically connected to the internet. They pull up the latest things and whatnot. Like Kiro, for instance, it has a Kiro power with Versa. So now you can do Next.js app. And my daughter, for instance, built an exploding unicorn tic-tac-toe game in like 30 minutes, and she is 10. So, and that game is like fabulous. Not the boring X and O's like you play with tic tac toe. And she didn't even know anything about JavaScript till then. Then I had to go back and teach her. And she's like, oh, this is just like Python, except weirder, is her description. I'm like, okay, it blew my mind the way she described it. But nevertheless, the second thing is rate of change is truly changing. And that means not just who is a builder, how quickly they can build. Already you're starting to see like a mainframe modernization, what used to take like 3 to 4 years, now are getting done in months. And I keep using things like Transform. And I'm still not happy with the team. And the team is not happy with themselves too. I'm like, why is it months? They should be actually weeks. And then and what used to be like taking weeks are now getting done in days. And this is the world we live in. And that means you are going to see various tasks are going to get automated. That means we as humans are implicitly are also going to lead through some of the HR transformation challenges. How do we retool our team in this new world where the art of possible is changing in such a rapid pace? And that is one of the challenges we all need to actually manage through and lead through this change as well.
Yeah, and if I can double click on that, as all of us have used large language models for our own personal lives in the last year, and I love your daughter's example of the tic-tac-toe with the exploding unicorn. That was on Kiro, wasn't it? Was that on Kiro? There we go. And just speaking personally, what I've, as a hands-on engineer who started on Commodore 64s with BASIC a long time ago, and then was a hands-on developer for a long time, you get out of it as you become a leader.
Yeah.
But the thing I've found with Kiro is suddenly I don't have to know the syntax to actually explore my own proof of concepts. I think all of us learning that way is just incredibly useful. And I'd like to close on something. You mentioned your 2 daughters when you came on stage this morning. I thought that was a lovely point, by the way. Many of us in this room are parents, and one of the questions that Dr. Andrew Ang answered yesterday is, what advice should we be giving for younger people who are at the start of their career, do you think, as we move forward on this change? I mean, the change is very fast, as you said, and we didn't even talk about quantum computing in that. As a parent, as somebody who works with younger children, what would you?
Yeah, I'd say, I mean, my kids, I have a daughter and a son, 10 and 4. The thing, so they are still in elementary school. So I don't have, my daughter is an artist and a robotist too. So she builds robots, but she also paints and composes music. So I have no idea what she will do. But the thing at the end of the day, the biggest thing is somewhere along the way, we confuse computer science and programming. Computer science, there is more to it than just learning how to program. You have to learn the fundamentals related to compilers, to operating system, to processors, to various other aspects of it. Those are all durable things that are not going to change. And same is going to be true for science in general. Physical AI is still not even reached its mainstream like limelight yet. For that, you need to have really good grounding on core aspects of physics, let alone now life sciences and healthcare. Again, really good understanding on core science and whatnot. All of these are going to become essential. So to me, to some extent, when people say, hey, computer science and STEM is not going to be relevant anymore, in fact, I actually think it's because people, when they think of STEM, they think of just learning Python. That is really not. You can pick up Python in a weekend. You don't need any major nation for it. So having core grounded fundamentals are going to be the long lasting, durable things. And to me, that is number one. Assuming they're my daughters are, she is interested in science, but if not, the constant, and this is what I at least tell myself. My PhD is not in machine learning or AI. I got into AI mostly because I got enamored by deep learning, and while building database and analytics, and I was running it for a while. And then I got enamored by it. And then I got so deep into it personally that I said, you know what, I spun myself out of the team I was running and started AI for AWS. So the biggest thing you want everyone to learn in school, but also in life in general, is how do you teach yourself that to be adaptable and be a constantly learning student, because that is always going to be the most important skill we all learn, because in many ways technologies are going to come and go. So if your kids, always challenge them to learn many new things and put them in an uncomfortable situation. And that's why that is one of the key things, at least I tend to challenge them. It doesn't mean they always listen to me either. They probably listen to their mom better than me, but
Yeah. That's children. Swami, thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you to you all for joining this. Thank you.